say action, right? And I like your
bolo.
What's that?
Some
Bolo
people
tie.
call it a bolo. Oops. Oh no,
It's
no.
very Texan, but it's
Tennessee.
But you grew up just north of
right.
Well, I guess North Alabama technically.
This actually is a hand-me-down from my grandfather. Yeah. And so
is he a Sachs, or is this the
no,
the
he's
maternal side?
My mom's side. Yeah.
What was the?
He was a pig farm. He was a Jewish pig farmer.
That is a oxymoron, right?
Jewish pig farmer. Yeah.
Was he? Because even if he's kosher, you still can't eat the pig. Maybe you kill it properly, but
no, it's funny.
Obviously,
I think Jews have sold a lot of things that they didn't partake from which they never participated. You know, many things, but and I don't know if he was the only Jewish pig farmer, but well, we actually grew up eating bacon. You probably did too.
I did.
Yeah.
Not frequently, but enough to. It was there was lots of trafe.
Yeah, I didn't even know the word trafe until like I was fully an adult.
Me either.
No.
I know my parents were both completely I mean, self-identified as atheist, not even agnostic, just pure atheists. They were, so, when my sibling refers to the fact that my dad is in heaven, I kind of squirm uncomfortably because I don't know what she's talking about. She wasn't raised with that belief system. So
that's so interesting. But that gives her solace. So that's good.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on. Yeah. So, but thank you for reaching out around that time. I appreciated it. You did a few times, and it's only recently gotten less of a raw thing. I was talking about it. There's this amazing documentary called 76 Days, which is actually shot in the hospital in Wuhan. I don't know if you heard about this film.
I've heard about it, but tell me about it.
It is heavy duty. It's this little crew of one or two people, got into the hospital, and they're journalists, so they got permission to shoot in there, and they just shot the entire first 2 months essentially of the pandemic in Wuhan, the birthplace of COVID-19. And nobody, I mean, as little as we knew here in March, we had the benefit of knowing something.
Right.
From January and February.
Were the filmmakers Chinese?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, one was in the one who came on the show, which is I just posted. I haven't.
Oh, that's so cool that you talked.
But today's, Hao Wu is on the episode today. You can watch it after this if you want to check it. It's an incredible, and we get into it, and I just, there's certain conversations I will talk too much, and in that one, and he was very interested because, both my parents had COVID, so. But it's an incredible film. I mean, it's just completely verite in there, and it will make you have for those with a very limited understanding of the Chinese culture, you will come away with a very different set of feelings about the Chinese. The people there were like anybody else, when you're in that kind of situation where you're fearing for your life or your loved one's life, we're all the same. Either all the other things that the surface things are gone, and it just comes down to the same feelings and values, and so it's worth seeing.
Wow.
Now, did you have a good phone call with abrupt change of topics? Did you have a good phone call with your distributor?
Yes, and things are all going forward, and so this won't necessarily be on your program, this part, right?
It will.
It
Well,
will.
we don't have to, so we don't have to talk about, or I can just cut this part out.
Okay,
So
well,
there's just say, let me know what you can talk about, what you can't. That's all. Or we can save the part you can't
let's
talk about to the end.
save it, and yeah, let's just save it, because I'll say one thing. I have learned in the last year a lot about how information is released about films, and probably books and other things. And certain people like them to be done, like it to be done in certain ways, and they like to have control of that, and they work so hard that I like to respect that. But I want to talk about that. As of tomorrow, I'll be able to talk about it more.
Oh, why? What happens to be overnight?
Well, only because they're going to announce that they're distributing my film tomorrow.
Oh, but if we are going to wait till this is, we could put this up. Oh, we were going to put this up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So
Let's just
right.
focus on that. Yeah, because that's maybe, and then we can have another conversation if you want to have another. I mean, on the poetry kind of thing. I mean, and we can talk about our background together, our shared experience together, because I am showing a part of Tip of My Tongue tomorrow.
Where is that happening? Meaning, if you're watching this on today, it could be today or Wednesday, the 2nd of December.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is, being part of our Zoom cosmos has been in some ways generative, and in some ways oppressive, because we haven't been able to be around loved ones, or even strangers, maybe more than loved ones. We just have been most of us have had our share of isolation. But I've actually had some really interesting experiences with teaching workshops around film and poetry that have been phenomenal, like so interesting, so compelling, so warm. And I taught one workshop at Maisels Documentary Center in May, and the people from that workshop are still making films with poetry together. Like many, probably 50 short films have come out of that workshop, which was only a few days, but the people felt so attached to each other, and they're all over the world.
And right, because of course, if it was in May, we know that this would happen virtually, right? Even
Yes.
though it's through the Maisel Center.
Yeah, and so that's been wonderful to see. And so currently I'm teaching a workshop at Beyond Baroque, which is the oldest literary art center in Los Angeles. They've been around since 1968, and they usually host events, poetry readings, workshops, other things on the premises. I've actually never been there before, but a few months ago, they contacted me, and they knew that I had taught these film poetry workshops, and they said, how'd you like to teach one for us? So I've been teaching one, and it's called Frames and Stanzas. And as you know from working together, that's been a fascination of mine, that intersection between image and text, and playful text, not straight ahead narration in the way that image can be. So I'm teaching Frames and Stanzas, and as part of that, they invited me to do a poetry reading from my new and first book, Year by Year Poems. And so that's, oh yes, exactly. And that is what I will be reading from tomorrow, as well as a new poem, a pretty long one of my longest, and it's not an epic in any way, but a new poem I wrote, which I call a pandemic time poem. It's called Happy Birthday Twice. Do you know what I mean by happy birthday twice? How we've been using that expression? Remember back at the beginning of the pandemic, how long were you supposed to wash your hands?
Oh, 20, 30 seconds? I forget.
So people would say, sing happy birthday to yourself twice.
Oh, I never heard that.
You didn't?
Oddly enough.
Okay.
No, I missed that.
It's okay. It's kind of glib. But that I heard it a lot. And so I kept thinking about, first of all, the notion of of taking something celebratory for something that was utilitarian, but also in a context that is so full of dread. So you're singing happy birthday to you twice, and you're washing your hands, and you're thinking about what would happen to you if you didn't wash your hands. But also that kind of dissipated because we became more aware in terms of COVID that it's spread through air and through respiration more than physical contact. But in those first few months, when people were saying, oh, you don't need a mask, which meant, oh, we don't have any masks, then they were also talking about that happy birthday twice. But I was also thinking about happy birthday because I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, I remember way back in the beginning of the pandemic, that
Feels like ancient history already.
yeah, I remember that I knew people who had birthdays in May, for example, and we would sort of say, oh, I'm really sorry you're having a birthday during the pandemic. And then there were the people in June, and then there were the people in July. And now everyone is going to get a chance to have a birthday during the pandemic.
Every living person, right?
Every living person, and probably some of them are going to be having it twice.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, easily. But we couldn't have comprehended that. All we were thinking, I mean, remember on March 11, 12, and 13, we were saying, okay, see you in a few weeks.
Yeah. In fact, and I also remember that maybe right in that frame of time, having have a doctor appointment scheduled and having a virus already that week. I was sick. So my doctor and I were joking. You probably have COVID. Well, probably wasn't COVID, but it might have been. It's probably not because I just recently went for a test and the doctor was asking me questions about that time and afterwards and doesn't think I had it.
Yeah. So,
but yeah.
Basically, I started writing a list of just anything that kind of seemed odd, and then that became a poem, which I'm going to read tomorrow. And then I wrote another poem, which became a film, actually, a short 90-second film that I made with one of my workshop participants. She's a painter, and her name's Laura Harrison, and she's also a filmmaker. And so part of the workshop was to exchange images and text between people, even people who didn't know each other. And so I participated in that. And so she sent me this painting that was almost abstract. It had just some face that you could see in it, like the way you see a face in a cloud. But for me, it was all about the fires in California, like the colors. So I wrote to it with that. I wrote to the image with that in mind. And you know, from work we've done together, that I'm like super interested in that intersection between how an event beyond your control enters your psyche. So that poem I'll show as a little film.
I was thinking when you were talking about it that you would have the person with the poetry would present, to the image maker, because it seems like that's a more typical, conventional way to create art is, going by words.
Well, that actually, Adam, really good point. And that is definitely something I tried to work against, in the sense that I really don't like when people try to illustrate poems. So, that you take a poem and you try to make it more understandable by way of the image. But if there's something where one sort of supports another, and they can be in parallel or in equal balance, but also sort of maybe contrapuntal at sometimes, and sometimes like fighting each other, I think that's kind of exciting and creates what you might call a frisson or tension that's interesting. And So yeah, so it's kind of liberating to have the image come first. And actually, I'll say to you that I loved responding to her very abstract painting because there was no burden of theme or burden of sort of asking myself what I'm going to talk about. I did it as an automatic writing, and I don't do that very much. And I was very self-conscious because I didn't let myself stop. I didn't like censor. I didn't critique what I'd said, which I do all the time. It's a big problem, it's all of our problem. I just wrote and wrote, and for a couple of minutes, and it was so fun, and actually took me to kind of a new place. I think I've been very influenced lately by the poet Bernadette Mayer, who lives near where you are now.
Oh
She's
yeah.
Yeah, she's in her mid 70s, and she's getting a lot of. I mean, she's had a lot of attention for decades. She's kind of like, what do I say, like the Jonas Mekas of experimental poetry. And she has just a fantastic way of writing in this kind of uh, anti-syntactical way, like working against traditional syntax.
Hmm. Um, I was thinking when you were talking about also this you know the I guess what would you call it? Not lyrics, the writing part.
Mhm.
The
The text,
the,
yeah.
oh, just like also as somebody who's written some songs in the past. Um, it's a typical question: which came first, the words or the lyrics? I kid. I mean, I know. I'm just joking. The lyrics or the music, and of course, it's different for everybody, but how that happens. But um, it remind way you were talking about this kind of collaboration. It almost feels like us writing a song together.
Well, I also have to say I've been interested in collaboration for years, but I think that the pandemic has been extremely generative in that way. Is You could say it would lead to the opposite, in that we live a very atomized existence, and we don't bump up against each other at all. We just kind of try to avoid each other, even on the street and in the grocery store. And if we have to be near people, we're masked, and so we have all these protective devices that keep us from each other. But because of technology, which is pretty like unbelievably um, um, adaptable to our needs, uh, I think that people are adaptable more than technology. People are adaptable, and so there's a kind of creative pulse around that that isn't about getting lots and lots of attention on a stage or in a theater, but about the work, like we're doing work, but work not like laborious work, but we're making something together. And you and I had talked before, and we met at a kitchen table, and that's amazing to do. And we've met here actually in this room. But it's also possible to create something new this way that is, shall we say, safe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this is a we're forced into certain situations, and then we immediately try to figure out. Maybe there might be some resistance initially
Mm-hmm.
and skepticism, etc. But we do adapt, and we do find then the new ways of because I guess expression is it's just human nature.
Well, I'm also finding that that in a lot of ways, especially in New York City, there was no room for expression because you were always being reactive. I mean, it's hard. I love so much about New York, and I love how what's accessible to us, and what is there to stimulate us, and what is there to entertain us, and distract us, whatever words you want to say. But here in this city that never sleeps, it does sleep. And or it rests. And I see a lot of interesting things happening on the streets where people are painting on walls, or like a store is covered up by wood and therefore it becomes a canvas.
Right.
And I think that it's not a good thing what we're going through, but as a passage,
Yeah.
it is nourishing.
We don't have a language to talk about this in a positive way, because socially we're shamed into not. I mean, there's suffering, so therefore whenever there's any suffering, it's hard to say, well, you make lemonade out of lemons,
Yeah.
But everybody I've spoken to talks about the upside to what we're dealing with, because what other choice do we have but to look and to immerse ourselves into any kind of upside to this, or any kind of way to free ourselves from the suffering, from the mundane. I mean, so I personally, this has been so freeing. I don't know, it just wouldn't have occurred to, I wouldn't have been able to, even if it had occurred to me to do this type of thing. It's because conversations are what I do. And then even if it occurred to me, nobody's going to get on Zoom, and it's just never would have happened. But now it's happening, so I can have a very different type. It's liberating in a lot of ways.
Well, I am very, very interested in the ways that we are entering people's homes. And, now neither of us are in the same home, but we're having a very, is intimate overused or something? We are in a proximity with each other such that we're like really we're making each other think. And I mean, that's what you do, all like that expression, tete. It's where our two heads are right here. And we are
Right.
we're being very supportive of like a belief that thinking is good. That thinking deeply about things we care about is good. And so like when I do this poetry reading, we were just talking today with people I've never met before, the organizers out in Los Angeles. By the way, it's going to be at 9:30 at night on the East Coast, which I kind of like. I'm hoping people will come up in bed. I should say that. There's that
in their bedclothes.
Or not, because I think they could come in anything, because I don't know if I'll be able to see them, or they could just not show their faces. Doesn't matter. But I love that there's something that starts at 9:30 at night, and people don't have to dress up for it. And it's like bedtime stories. It's bedtime stories for East Coast people, and it's dinner theater for West Coast people, and then all the others can pick in between.
Well, so you're going to be reading?
I'm going to read my poems. I'll tell you what else I'm doing. I'm going to read the new poem called Happy Birthday Twice, and the new poem about the fire, which is called Orange Glow.
This is the collaboration.
Yep. And then I'm going to show the film. So I'm going to read the poem, then I'm going to show, or maybe I'll just show the film. I'm figuring it out. But then I'm going to show a short film, a 3-minute film I was commissioned to make because the woman I mentioned earlier, Bernadette Mayer, who's 75, in 1971.
My neighbor.
Yeah, your neighbor. I can't tell you exactly where she lives, but anyway, she wrote a series of poems called Memory, and she also shot photographs. So every single day of the month of July in 1971, she wrote these extraordinary text pieces, language poems. And then there was an installation of that piece in the 70s. And then just like 6 months ago, Siglio Press published the entire oeuvre, which is an extremely beautiful book. In fact, Luc Sante, excuse me. Luc Sante, I read in the paper today, said it was his book of choice for Christmas gift. Luc Sante, yes.
Wow.
It's a really beautiful book. And so I was asked to make a little film related to one of the days, July 30th. So I actually, by doing a little research, which I like to do, found out where she lived as a child, which was in Ridgewood, Queens. And I found her house. And so I shot this film there and then read a part of the poem. So I'm going to show that because she's been a real inspiration to me the last few months. And then I'm going to show a clip from the film that you are in, Tip of My Tongue.
I'm not necessarily in the clip, so if you're watching.
Yeah, you're not in the clip, I will say, but you're in the movie because I made this movie in 2017.
Oh, I should have grabbed. See, I should have grabbed the DVD.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's only a few feet away from me, but
I might have it over here. Should I go look for it? This is right there.
oh, it's there.
Yep, I think so.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll do some. What? Some I could. Do I have shadow behind me? I could.
Okay. So here is the DVD.
That's right.
Yeah. And Adam is in it. And this film includes 11 people who were all born between 1958 and 64. And we all look at our shared years, but from very, very different perspectives. So it's kind of a meditation on the like insights you have as you grow older.
You know, and I remember my moment. I remember I might have had two where
you have a good moment
where I talk about the memories of Nixon and Reagan.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I could have a sequel to that. Because this is going to be like.
Yeah, I know, we could. So I'm going to show a clip from that film because it's a 80-minute film. And I think that's it. That's what I'm going to show. So, and hopefully I'll have an engagement with the people who come from wherever they may arrive from.
And mention the name of the
oh yeah,
the organization again. It's called Beyond.
It's called Beyond Baroque. I love that name. And you can find, it's listed under their events for December 2nd. And then you register and it's free.
$3. So if you go Beyond, you can still up to 9:30 East Coast time or 6:30 Pacific. You can register for the event. And
I would be really charmed. And if you come, tell me, Adam. Tell us, Adam.
That would be wonderful if that happened. See if anybody's.
Yeah, it's definitely doable. They have an Eventbrite and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be reading from this book. I should also say this book was published by Tender Buttons Press. That book, we both have it. And this book is very tied in with this movie because the poems that are in this book, many of them. That's right. Film. So this is one of my first attempts at sort of bridging and interweaving film and poetry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, from one of the. I mean, I can say all my other films did that, but this one did it in a more in graphic way too, with the words on the screen and everything like that. Yeah, actually, just by looking at the titles, you can see that I play around with a lot of handwritten graphics.
And inside as well, there's the typical typography, but there's also handwritten versions of when you were drafting your poems. Yeah,
I really like that part of writing, which is those first drafts, that gesture is critical. And I think with computers, it's kind of being forgotten about. And so I think it's important to keep that first gesture because with computers, there's nothing more attractive than the delete button. Ding,
Yeah, interesting. Right. And I kept all the going back to having written music in the past. I kept all my, the drafts of handwritten drafts of songs, lyrics, many of which never amounted to anything, but I kept everything. And I thought, I started dating them when I started thinking, maybe I should write the date on it. Yeah. I was still kind of a kid when I started it. So it didn't occur to me.
Actually, speaking of how this new moment can can be one in which we start to do things that we hadn't expected. I mean, you're singing on Zoom also, and has been.
Well, the Zoom, I don't.
Is it Zoom or what did you do on Facebook? You did it.
No, I just, well,
You posted.
I
I know
do. Well,
you
what
posted.
happened was, just so you understand, I have a camp community. You more than
Yeah.
anybody knows that. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I decided to upload a song that, like, from the camp,
Mm.
the Great American
Okay, so it
Songbook.
wasn't Zoom at
The
all.
great, no,
Sorry.
no, no. It was from the Great American Camp Thoreau Songbook. I was uploading a song a day, thinking, like you said before, okay, maybe I'll do 20, 30 of these and it'll be over. 100 songs, So I was there though through the 70s and 80s, and so there were many periods of time. There were a lot of songs over the many, many years from that camp, even before and after I was there. So it was not hard to come up with find the songs, but I was posting them exclusively to this group page. And then once in a while, if I particularly liked one, I just posted on my page. So that's how that happened.
Okay.
And
But you did
now I kind of do it.
hundreds,
What?
and you did hundreds of songs?
No. Well, at this point, I probably done between those for my summer camp friends. And by the way, there's quite a lot of people on there. And the ones then since, because I kind of stopped doing them daily, I just kind of ran out of material and out of and I got busy, quite busy. So I've probably done somewhere between 100 and I don't know, 150. I don't know. I haven't
That
counted.
is awesome. And I do not use that word often.
Yeah, and there are a lot of songs I don't even like that I was doing because, I played them too many times growing, over the years, and so I just, but I did it. But the people were connecting so much to them that I was able to, enjoy doing it. But you don't get the real time. Although we do now. Shortly after the I started doing that, somebody said, "Let's get on Zoom," and there's been almost a weekly Sunday night Zoom every week through the pandemic, where there's some group now. It's like down to a core group, but and we do some music on there, but you can't, of course, do it together per se. One person plays, and the other people kind of have to mute them. You can't achieve a synchronized way of sharing music.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's in at least something, so there's a little of that. But yeah, it's been pretty. I as a musician, just getting my chops back has been incredibly great. Again, it
Also,
probably
you
would not,
have
it
the
wouldn't have probably
time though.
happened if not for the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that we all have to we have to take a breath. We have to slow, but in the slowing, other things are speeding up. Other things are spinning around and creating, like, of course, most people I know would say their dreams have totally changed, or because of,
Are you talking about literal dreams
like, literal
or
dreams,
goals?
not goals. Dream, like the way we dream, because
Yes.
sometimes people are having a harder time sleeping, or I've actually had at least 3 dreams, I would say, so, or maybe more, where I'm in a Zoom world.
Really?
Yes.
That's kind of freaky. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Wow, I haven't had that experience yet.
yeah, I have. And
That is
I think I'm pretty aware. I think in the dream, I'm aware that I'm on Zoom, but everything is falling apart.
wow.
But
Yeah.
it is a big, it's a way we spend our time. So it makes, there's actually a short film that I made, that it's called Day Residue. And also I make a lot of 3-minute films. I think, like, it's sort of like, actually someone said this to me. A 3-minute film is very comparable to a pop song. It like goes down. If you don't like it, it'll be over soon, but it can be catchy. You know what I'm saying? Like, 3 minute, I just love the 3-minute length. Also, when I'm shooting with my Bolex, that's the length of a roll of film.
Oh,
Also, 3 minutes is kind of like people might say, but reading a lot of poems. But I made about a 3-minute film, Super 8. It's called Day Residue. And it's based on an expression, it's a psychoanalytic expression that has to do with a kind of dreaming, the kind of dreaming that is literal. The dreaming that I might have, I could have a dream tonight about the two of us talking. That's the residue of our day. It doesn't take a lot to to sort of analyze that. But I sometimes really love those dreams because it gives you a chance to parse through your your day. So it's actually just a film I shot in my mom's house because I was kind of connecting with memories of my childhood, and it also felt dreamy as I shot it through Super 8. So anyway, I love that expression, and I'm interested in how that how the day residue of this pandemic time, I call it, settles.
Mm-hmm. How is your father?
He's okay.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's not very verbal right now, but but engaged. He's an active listener. So
He says a lot.
yeah, it's okay. It's pretty good. He's okay. Yeah.
Very good. Well, so we'll remind people that Lynne Sachs's poetry event, we'll call it that. It's a little reductive, but we'll say it's or multimedia. Will take place 6:30 Pacific time, 9:30 Eastern time on Wednesday, the 2nd of December, which might be today if you're watching. And you go to Beyond Baroque, as in BAROQUE.
Yep.
Okay. And Beyond Baroque something or other.
Org.
Org. Yeah, I figured it might be an org. So, and register for the event, and it's free. Free. It's free. There's.
And come from bed.
Come as you are.
Come as you are, and whatever it may be.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Adam.
Okay, you're welcome. And now you can say so. But you had a good call. Now that we're all, let me stop the